Toronto. 7:42 a.m. The sky was still gray when the janitor opened the glass door to the highest floor of Merit Capital. Inside, 43 investors sat in silence, until the CEO's voice sliced through the air. "Do you have any idea how much money is on the table right now?" she said, her tone sharp enough to cut glass. Every head turned toward the man in the doorway. Rumpled uniform, tired eyes, and a mop bucket dripping onto marble worth more than his yearly salary. Ethan Graves froze. He wasn't supposed to be here. One wrong move, and the job keeping his daughter alive would vanish. But when the firm's chief officer smirked and said, "Fine, janitor, why don't you tell us where to invest $2.3 billion? Something inside him shifted. He looked at the glowing charts and saw a pattern no one else did. His voice shook, but he spoke anyway. And in that instant, the laughter stopped. What he revealed next would change every life in that room. Stay till the end to see how truth can outshine power. And don't forget to like and subscribe to Canada's Heartfelt Tales for more stories that prove courage still matters. The sound of silence was heavier than the marble floor beneath Ethan's shoes. Every heartbeat felt like a drum echoing through the boardroom. Dozens of eyes, some mocking, some curious, some cruel, stared as he pointed at the data glowing across the wall. "You can't invest in Nakamura," he said quietly. The laughter faded into something sharper, an unease that rippled through the room like static. Sloane Merritt, the billionaire CEO who ruled this empire of glass and numbers, tilted her head slightly. Her diamond earrings caught the light, cold and precise. "Explain," she demanded. Ethan's fingers gripped the edge of the conference table. His voice steadied as he spoke. "Because the earnings are fake. The numbers match an old fraud pattern from STO Financial. 34.2% inflation, offshore shell accounts through Hong Kong. The collapse begins when Tokyo opens." It was like dropping a stone into still water. Nobody moved. Even the hum of the projector seemed to hold its breath. Then from the back, one analyst whispered, "He's right." Jennifer Park's voice broke the tension. She was staring at her laptop, eyes wide. "The filings don't match. Nakamura's books are dirty." Sloane turned, her expression unreadable, and said only one word. "Cancel." That single command ended a $2 billion trade. The janitor who wasn't supposed to speak had just saved the company. But for Ethan, there was no triumph, only the trembling awareness that he'd crossed an invisible line. In places like Merit Capital, truth had a price. When the meeting cleared, Sloane ordered him to follow. The hallway felt endless. Her office, all glass and skyline, swallowed him whole. "Who are you really?" she asked, pouring water like it was interrogation. "A father," he said. "A man who made one mistake, trusting the wrong people." She listened, really listened. When the Tokyo call confirmed everything, the shift in her eyes was small but real. Respect, earned not given. "You just saved this firm from ruin," she said. "Now tell me what you want." "I just want to keep my job. My daughter's medicine depends on it." That was the first time Sloane Merritt broke her composure. Crack, not pity but something close to understanding. She offered him a trial position. "Prove yourself. You get 3 months." And just like that, a janitor became an analyst. The next morning, Ethan walked through the glass doors in a borrowed suit. Whispers followed him like smoke. Some were curious, others venomous. "That's him," someone muttered. "The janitor." Jennifer welcomed him with a small smile. "You shook the foundation last night," she said. "Half the office loves you. Half wants you gone." He nodded. "That's fair." Then came Grant Westfield, the chief investment officer. His smile was as sharp as broken glass. "Welcome aboard," he said smoothly. "I hope you're as talented as last night suggested. This is the big league, Mr. Graves. No room for mistakes." "I'll do my best," Ethan replied. "Good," Grant said, leaning closer. "Because one mistake here doesn't just cost you your job. It costs billions." The threat was clear beneath the charm. Weeks passed. Ethan worked until midnight, studying markets, running simulations, finding cracks others missed. He wasn't chasing praise. He was rebuilding the dignity stolen from him years ago. Each report he produced was meticulous, impossible to dismiss. But Grant watched him like a hawk. Behind every polite nod was calculation. The more Ethan succeeded, the deeper Grant's resentment grew. Sloane noticed too. She saw the way Grant interrupted Ethan in meetings, how whispers spread when Ethan left the room. But she also saw something else, a quiet brilliance that reminded her of herself years ago, fighting to be taken seriously. One night, when the office lights were nearly out, Sloane found Ethan still working. "You're back again," she said softly. He looked up startled. "Just finishing the Thompson report. You don't need to prove anything to me." "Yes, I do," he said. "Everyone here is waiting for me to fail." There was no arrogance in his tone, only truth. Sloane understood that. She'd built her empire clawing through the same disbelief, though hers was painted in sexism, not class. "Then prove them wrong," she said. "But don't lose yourself doing it." They ended up sharing dinner that night in a small Thai restaurant 2 blocks away. Between cheap dishes and fluorescent light, walls fell. She told him about the nights she ate noodles at her desk, building merit capital from nothing. He told her about Chloe, his 7-year-old daughter whose insulin cost more than his rent. For the first time, Sloane saw the man behind the mop. 3 weeks later, the storm hit. A headline exploded across financial media. Merit Capital's risky hire. Janitor accused of past securities fraud. Grant was in Sloane's office before she could even react. "We can't keep him. Clients are panicking." Sloane didn't blink. "He stays." "Be reasonable," Grant snapped. "You're defending a man who nearly destroyed his last firm." "No," she said coldly. "I'm defending the man who just saved this one." That was the day Sloane stopped being just a boss and became an ally. But the leak did its damage. Ethan walked through corridors thick with whispers. His computer access flickered. His seat in meetings felt colder. Even those who'd praised him now looked away. At home, Chloe sensed his heaviness. "Did someone hurt your feelings, Daddy?" He smiled faintly. "Some people don't think I belong where I work." "Then show them you do," she said simply. That night, her words lit a spark. Ethan dove into the data, chasing something that didn't add up. Small losses hidden in Asian portfolios, patterns too neat to be random. He followed the trail and found it. $200 million, siphoned quietly over 2 years, every transaction approved by Grant Westfield. It was the same pattern that destroyed Ethan's career at his old firm. He went to Sloane. "I know who leaked the story. And I know what he's hiding." Her expression didn't change, but her eyes did. "How much?" $287 million. "And he's been doing it under your nose." Sloane's voice dropped to a whisper. "Prove it." For a week they worked in secret after hours. Sloane and Ethan, the CEO and the janitor, piecing together a crime buried under spreadsheets. The evidence grew undeniable. "He's been stealing from me," Sloane said one night, staring at the skyline. 8 years of loyalty, and this. "People like him think trust is weakness," Ethan said. "It's what makes them sloppy." Her jaw tightened. "We end this, quietly or publicly. If you cover it up, you become him." That was the turning point. The woman who'd built an empire on control chose truth over image. "Then we expose him," she said. But Grant wasn't stupid. He noticed the late nights, the restricted files being accessed. He called in favors, hired investigators, and soon his people were watching Ethan's apartment and Chloe's school. One night, Ethan spotted the same black sedan twice. His stomach turned cold. He called Sloane. "He's watching us." "I'll handle it," she said. And she did, quietly deploying her own security team. But before they could strike, disaster struck first. Chloe collapsed at her after-school care. Diabetic ketoacidosis. Ethan ran through the hospital halls, heart pounding. Machines beeped, nurses shouted, and his little girl lay pale under white sheets. Sloane called as he sat by her bed. "You need to be here tomorrow. Grant's turning the board against you. He's claiming you're the thief." Ethan looked at his daughter's tiny hand. "I can't leave her. If you don't, he wins. He'll destroy you and you'll never protect her again." He closed his eyes. "Then I'll fight." The next afternoon, the boardroom felt colder than ever. Grant stood before 12 members, his voice smooth, his lies polished. "This man infiltrated our systems long before his employment. He used his janitor credentials to access accounts and embezzle funds." The board murmured in concern. Grant's fake evidence gleamed across the screen. And then Ethan walked in. "My daughter's alive," he said, voice steady. "So now we can deal with the truth." He plugged in his laptop. "You said I accessed files 9 months ago. But these documents were created yesterday. Their metadata doesn't lie." The room shifted. Grant's mask cracked. "Ridiculous," Grant hissed. "He forged everything." Sloane stood. "No, Grant. I verified those signatures myself. Fingerprints, retina scans, yours. Unless Ethan somehow stole your eyes." The board gasped. Grant's composure shattered. "You can't do this. I built this firm." "No," Sloane said. "You built a lie." Security stepped forward. Grant's shouting echoed down the hallway as he was escorted out, his empire collapsing behind him. Weeks later, newspapers ran the story. CIO arrested for massive embezzlement, ex-janitor uncovers scheme. Sloane promoted Ethan to senior analyst. The staff who once whispered now stood when he entered the room. But none of it mattered more than the day he brought Chloe home from the hospital, healthy again, her small hand clutching his. That night, Sloane visited with flowers. "You didn't just save my company," she said. "You reminded me what integrity looks like." He smiled faintly. "You gave me the chance to prove it." Over time, respect turned into friendship, then something deeper. Dinner meetings became quiet evenings, laughter replaced tension, and two people who'd both lost everything built something that finally felt real. Grant Westfield, meanwhile, faced trial. His sentence: 18 years in federal prison. When the verdict was read, Sloane and Ethan watched the broadcast in silence. Justice didn't erase the scars, but it restored faith. And as the screen faded, Chloe tugged her father's sleeve. "Daddy," she said, "you're a hero." He shook his head gently. "No, baby. I just told the truth." That night, under the soft glow of Toronto's skyline, Sloane turned to him and whispered, "You realize what you did, don't you? You made them listen." Ethan smiled. "Maybe they'll think twice before laughing next time." The city stretched beneath them, cold glass and warm hearts, ambition and redemption woven into one. And somewhere in that light, a janitor became more than a symbol. He became proof that courage, not power, decides who really wins. When the city lights dimmed over Toronto, Ethan stood by the window of his new office. The same skyline that once looked unreachable now glowed like a promise finally kept. It wasn't about titles anymore, or suits, or who held the biggest keycard. It was about the quiet certainty that truth, no matter how small it begins, always finds its way to the top. He thought about Sloane, whose faith turned risk into redemption, and about Chloe, whose laughter filled the home that once echoed with fear. Every step that once felt like survival had become a path toward purpose. The janitor who once pushed a mop now guided others through the same corridors, reminding them that brilliance can come from anywhere, if someone just listens. The lesson wasn't about luck. It was about never giving up when no one believes you, and never letting bitterness steal the courage that built you. As the sun rose over the glass towers, Ethan smiled, knowing his story wasn't just his own anymore. It belonged to everyone who'd ever been overlooked, doubted, or dismissed. Proof that integrity still wins in a world that often forgets its value. If this story moved you, help us keep sharing voices that matter. Like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to Canada's Heartfelt Tales, where every story begins with truth and ends with heart.